Hello, and welcome to this bonus session called Creating a Parenting Vision That Lasts. I thought this was super important for this summit where we're talking about the 2025 Parent Reset, transforming your life from chaos to calm. And I'm super excited for this. So, you've seen me all week. I'm Dom, I'm the Uncaped Mama. I am an ambassador at Parent Porch and helped to put this summit together. And so, I'm excited that you're here for this bonus session. I'm a parent myself. I'm a mom of two. And I know that parenting can feel like a whirlwind, joyful, overwhelming, confusing, happy, everything in between. And I want to start by sharing why I'm so passionate about this topic in particular. There was a time where I took my toddlers to Walmart after school. It was a Friday. They were happy as we were walking into the store, and I just wanted to do some quick shopping for the weekend. And the moment we hit the door, they both started to have a meltdown. Now, I'm used to my son who has autism. I'm used to him having a meltdown. And, I'm used to like my daughter having like a short meltdown, right? Because she's a toddler. They're both toddlers. But this was different. They both were having like a major meltdown. And in that moment, I didn't know what to do. I felt shame. I felt embarrassment. I was overwhelmed. I was a little angry. I was confused. I remember telling my brother and my grandma, who was still alive at the time, afterwards, like, oh my gosh, somebody come get them. Like, I do not understand what was going on. I told their dads, and their dads were like, they never act like that with me. And I'm like, none of this is helpful. And I remember thinking later, like, what do I want to be true of me as a parent in those tough moments? Like, I can't control them, but what do I want to be true of me? Like, what is this thing that I'm going to lean on? And that brought me to, a parenting vision. Like, I wanted to discover, like, what is my vision for parenting? And I'm pretty vision led. Even at work, I'll create a vision for like my role for the year or my role in general and like set goals based on that vision. And so I thought, like, wow, a parenting vision would be really helpful for me. And not do I want what do I want to be true of my children, but what do I want to be true of me, right? And so, uh, why does this matter so much? I think we plan for so many things in our lives: our careers, our finances, our daily schedules, our weekly schedules, right? The vacations and all those sorts of things. And there are so many things in this life we plan for, right? But what about parenting? Why not plan for how we want to raise our children, or what do we want to be true of ourselves while we're raising children? So in other words, like, if parenting truly is the most important job that we'll have, and as Dr. Benjamin Carson said, there is no job more important than parenting, right? It makes sense to approach it with, intention and a clear vision. And so you'll see me looking off of my notes here because I don't want to mess anybody's quotes up or any of my research up. And I want to make sure that like we dig into this and you leave here with practical tips. So research backs this whole thing up. Studies show that when we practice positive and intentional parenting, our kids benefit a lot, like enormously. For example, there was one study that found that children of parents who use positive parenting strategies do better in school. They have fewer behavioral problems and they enjoy just a stronger mental health. In fact, Harvard researchers found that positive parenting can lead to better relationships and well being for children, even into adulthood. So that means that the effort you invest now in designing this vision pays off for years to come. And I'm not talking about, toxic positivity, right? I'm just talking about like being intentional in your parenting and having this positive outlook on parenting to sort of guide you through. So this means, again, being purposeful, right? There are studies that look into purposeful parenting, which is a very similar approach to having a parenting vision. And they found that this approach can actually reduce toxic stress in kids and help them become more confident and resilient, right? And so having a parenting vision can help you feel more confident and consistent and help your children thrive, but also help you thrive. It's definitely worth exploring. So in this masterclass, we are going to walk through exactly how to create a parenting vision that lasts. I'll break it down into practical steps and I'll share some stories along the way. And even a few mistakes I've made because there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So by the time we end our time together today, here are my goals. One, you'll know what a parenting vision is and why it's a total game changer for your family. You will identify your core parenting values, the beliefs and the principles that shape your vision. You will know how to set parenting goals, both big picture and day to day, that align with your vision. And then also ways to create a parenting roadmap. This is just like a general guide. What are the habits and the practices that keep you on track, even when life gets busy or overwhelming or there's a big change? And finally, we'll wrap it up with the clear action steps so that you can start building your vision right away. And also an invitation for you and your family to continue this journey with our community. Sound good? Sounds good to me. All right. I encourage you again to grab a notebook, a journal, to jot down ideas and to answer some reflection questions that I'll be asking. And of course, you can always revisit this video and share it with your partner, maybe who isn't here, or even your older kids. This is an interactive session. So I want you to really think deeply about what you truly want for your parenting or for your children. And this doesn't matter if your children, right, are teens or adults, right? Or if you just became a parent or if you're about to start a family. So thank you for being here. You've already taken the first step toward a more intentional parenting journey. All right, let's go. So what is a parenting vision? Let's start with the basics, right? Start at the beginning. What is it? Simply put, a parenting vision is a clear idea of what kind of parent you want to be and the kind of family you want to create. So it's like this North Star, for example, for your parenting decisions. Your vision might include the values you want in install in your kids. It might be the environment you want to create at home, the long-term hopes you have for your children's future. It can include all of that. Think of this as your parenting like mission statement, big picture roadmap for raising your kids. So companies, right, have a vision. There are even families who have like a family crest, and these are the things that are foundational to them. And it really helps guide them in their decision making, especially when big decisions arise or when changes arise. So when you have this parenting vision, it gives you a sense of purpose and consistency, right? Instead of just winging it day by day, which we will do sometimes. And you might do it more often than you would like. I definitely wing it more often than I would like. Having this like overarching guiding light will help, right, in those moments. And so, as one parenting writer put it, a parenting vision will provide you with the framework and the means by which to gauge progress as a parent. And so, in other words, it's like helping you think, am I being the parent I truly want to be? It's a lot easier to answer that question when you have a clear vision to measure it against. So, am I being this parent? And if not, what support do I need? What changes do I need to make? So, you might be wondering, is a parenting vision like a strict plan? No, it is a lot more flexible than that. It's not about being a perfect parent because there's no such thing, again, as a perfect parent. Instead, it's about being an intentional parent. So the American Academy of Pediatric even endorses the idea of purposeful parenting, right? And this is what this is all about. It means setting long-term goals and envisioning what qualities you want your kids to possess as adults, and essentially working backward from there. And so I love this concept of beginning with the end in mind. You picture what kind of adults you hope your children will become, and then you use that vision to guide what you do today. This also takes me back to teaching. We used to backwards plan. So we knew what the standards were for the year. And to make sure kids really exceeded that, right? They exceeded in their learning with backwards plan. So how do I, if this is where they need to be at the end of the year, then what needs to be true of my quarterly plans? Okay. And then in the quarter, how do I like work backwards to get them to this thing? And then in the week, how do I get them here? Same concept, right? And it sounds overwhelming, but I'm about to guide you through exactly how to do that. So when you have a clear parenting vision, here are a few big things that happens. One, you have clarity in decision making, as I mentioned. So parenting is full of tough choices, sometimes regularly. Like there are some weeks where I'm making tough choices every day. And when you have this vision, your priorities are clearer. Also, it's easier to like drown out the noise. It's based on what you want. So you can say, does this align with the parent I want to be and the values that I care about? Everyone else like can value different things or they have different top values, but you're able to say me based on who I am and what I want to be true. And as one expert says, intentional parenting means having a plan, right? Those priorities guide your day-to-day decisions. In short, your vision becomes the filler for what you say yes and no to. What you say yes to now and what you put off until later, right? So that's one big thing. First big thing is just clarity and decision making. And the second thing is consistency and confidence. When you know what your long term parenting vision is, you tend to be more consistent in how you handle situations. So your kids get to benefit from the clear expectations. They get a more stable environment. You get confidence because you're not just winging it, right? Research suggests that parents who are consistent and intentional raise children who also feel more secure and even follow rules better because they know their parents are guiding them with purpose. Consistency, built on a vision that signals to your kids that you're a confident leader in the family, and so they can rely on you. And then when kids, feel secure, they behave better. And that's always a nice bonus. We want that. They already know what to expect. All right. So, next big thing that this does for you when you have a vision is you stay motivated, especially when times get tough. Like, let's face it, there are days when parenting is exhausting. Even just like you're just exhausted, right? Outside of just being a parent, you are other things. The kids are fighting, or the house is a mess, or you're running on 5 hours of sleep, or everybody just got done being sick, or you got something big coming up, and you're trying to get all these things done. And it's on those days that having a bigger vision really, really helps. It reminds you why you're doing this and what it's all for. So for instance, in part of your vision for raising kids, you might say like compassionate humans, and that vision can motivate you to take a deep breath and respond with patience instead of anger during a tantrum, or when things weren't done correctly, or you've asked 5 times for something to be done right. You remember that this moment is part of the long journey, and so it helps you handle it with a bit more grace. A bit more grace for yourself, a bit more grace for your family, a bit more grace for your children. And in fact, current research on family shows that slowing down and being intentional, essentially like keeping with that long-term vision in mind, helps you to make better decisions in the moment and for your children's long-term development. So your vision can be a source of strength when things feel really hard. And so the last big thing is the long-term impact on the kids. Like we've already touched on this, but with the research, but um, when you parent with a vision, you're intentional, you're loving, you're focused on your big picture goals. Your kids benefit from that. Research shows that they tend to have better emotional health and coping skills because they've seen it modeled, and two, you're likely teaching them that with your intentionality. There's one article on purposeful parenting that noted that this approach opens the lines of communication and helps kids know you're always there to talk and support them, which is huge. Over time, that can lead to kids who are more open with you and who trust you deeply. They know they can come to you for advice. They know they can come to you for comfort. They know they can come to you for tough decisions that they're making long term. As mentioned earlier, kids raised with positive intentional parenting are more likely to become confident and emotionally healthy adults. That's really the ultimate hope, right? Like that's really what we want. We want our children to grow up into happy, healthy adults who still want to be connected to us and remain connected to us. So, um, so what does it actually look like in real life? This can be as simple or as detailed as you want. Like one parent I know wrote down a beautiful parenting vision statement for her family. It's that she described it as wanting to raise children who are curious, kind, confident, and loving. So she wrote, "We want to raise children who are not afraid of asking why. We want to raise kind children who embrace people's differences. We hope our children will be confident. In our house, we love one another." Like, amazing, right? Inspiring, beautiful, detailed, but it's not like paragraphs, right? It's a few statements of what you want to be true. And so, think about yours. Yours might emphasize creativity or faith or resilience or anything else that matters to you. The point is that your vision is personal to you and your family. So here's my first reflection prompt for you. Okay. All right. So take a moment to think. Have you ever considered your own parenting vision? Hold on. So here's a reflection prompt. I want you to take time to think. Have you ever considered your own parenting vision? Do you have an idea of what you'd like your kids to be like as they grow? And what kind of parent do you want to be? If it's a new idea for you, that's okay. I just want you to reflect on it, right? Just jot down any initial thoughts that come to your mind about words or phrases that might be part of your vision. For example, raise independent, empathetic children, create a home filled with laughter and learning, um, something like that. And we're going to build on this as we go through this class. Just keep these notes handy, okay? And don't beat yourself up. Remember that this is flexible, okay? So once you have had some time to think about it, you can even chat with your family about this. You'll be able to come up with the vision. Trust me, I promise. All right. So now that we understand what a parenting vision is and why it's so valuable, let's move on to the first step of creating your own lasting vision. So we're going to identify your core parenting values. Um, so you may have done core values work at work or in some other session, or maybe this is completely new to you, and that's okay. Every strong vision really starts with knowing your values. So in this context, parenting values are the principles, character traits, and beliefs that are most important to you as a parent. So to answer this question, I want you to think, what do I want to prioritize in raising my children? Identifying your values will give your parenting vision a strong foundation. It's like laying the groundwork for a house. Okay. Once you know what you stand on, you can build the rest. Your goals, your plans, and everything else will like be a lot more solid once you understand that. So, why values matter is an important thing to think about, because you might say, "Why create a vision without that?" When you're clear on your values, you can parent more intentionally and confidently, right? Everybody has different values, and that's okay. There's not one right way to parent. There's not like a textbook answer for everything. Okay, so defining your values just has it's been shown to really help children feel more secure and create a stronger sense of family connection and belonging. So think about that. When everyone in the family knows these are things we care about most: kindness, honesty, respect, faith. It gives kids a solid framework, right? It can boost their mental health because they feel anchored and know what their family stands for. And so shared values also make it easier to set goals and make decisions. And because it's easier because you have a solid sense of self and you have a solid sense of what's important to this family. So if faith is not something that's strong in your household, right? But it's something else. But let's say like it's not faith. Let's say yours is community. Then you will know that your family is going to make a lot of time for hosting events at your house. You're going to get to know your neighbors. You're going to do maybe some volunteering in the community often. And that won't be a surprise because that's what your family values. You make time for it, you look forward to it, right? Maybe you are you make time to give, right, during certain seasons of the year, or regularly, right? You are giving away things when you grow out of them, and you're going somewhere to donate them as a family to give back to the community, right? So those are just examples. If it's faith, then you may do like prayer, meditation, reflection. You may visit your church or a temple, right? Often for services, for classes, for studying and for connecting, right? And we'll see that, right, in your household. And then your children outside of the household, right? And when you're outside the household, you'll just see that reflected in how you behave and what you choose to do. And so, again, it gives you that like solid foundation and a solid framework for what is true of you. You will, if it's respect, right? You will see this mutual respect, not only children giving it to you, but you giving it back. And also they'll see you giving respect every other place to other people, right? And not only to people, but also how are you respecting your home? How are you respecting your space? How are you respecting your neighborhood and your yard and all of those things, right? So it really just like helps to set this really strong foundation of things you can lean on, and it's because you believe it and you want to help to build those beliefs in your children too. So, how do we clarify these values? Let's go through some practical steps, okay? So reflect on what matters to you. So take some time to ask yourself some deep questions. This is a great journaling exercise, by the way. And you can either write this down, you can do a voice memo, right? You can do a video journal. There's so many ways for you to kind of think through this. But here are a few prompts to get you started, and feel free to write these down so you can revisit them or rewind and pause, right? So that you can get these all down. So what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of parent do I want to be? What do I want for my children's future? In terms of character, not material things or not what they'll accomplish, but like, do I want them to be compassionate, adventurous, disciplined, free thinking, respectful, right? What values or qualities do I admire in other people? So maybe there's things you've seen other people and other parents do or mention. Maybe there's like role models that you have who model patience, or you can recall like your own upbringing and you value honesty, um, because that's what your parents taught you, right? Like, think about that. What values do I want my child to have? Kindness, courage, curiosity, inclusivity, faith, work ethic. There's no wrong answers here, by the way. Just think about things that genuinely matter to you when you're answering these questions. And then lastly, why are these values important to me? The why is probably the most crucial part, right? If you value honesty, is it because you believe it builds trust and strong relationships, right? If you value education, is it because knowledge opens doors to life? Knowing the why of the values will help you strengthen your commitment to it and also help you define it. So take a moment to really think on these things. You might even close your eyes for a second and picture the future and imagine how your child is, now and then as an adult, and describe the kind of upbringing you gave them. So let's just imagine they're like saying this to you. Um, and, your child might be saying back to you, my mom and dad taught me the importance of blank. Fill in that blank. And that's likely one of your core values, right? Like, just what you want your children to say, is a great way to really think about this. So make sure you discuss this with your partner or co-parent if applicable. You you want to compare notes and find common ground. You want to be on the same page about this. You don't want a parenting vision for yourself, right? And then create that into household values and it doesn't align, right, with what your partner would say or your co-parent would say. Each of you might have a slightly different value based on your own upbringing and personality, and that's totally okay. Just share your answers from step one with each other, look for the overlap, and also respect each other's unique perspectives. The goal is to come up with a short list of shared values that you both support. So, for example, you might agree on respect and learning and humor as key values, or perhaps one of you feels more strongly about spiritual faith while the other emphasizes creativity. You might decide both can be a part of your family vision, right? So this is just a really beautiful conversation to have as you're coming up with your own parenting vision, and you do want there to be some alignment, right? And even if there's one that doesn't make it, but you still feel like that matters, you can still continue to parent from that value. Um, so yeah, so now, so what we've done so far is you sat and reflected, right? You reflected on what matters to you. If you're co-parenting or you have a partner, you're talking about those things. Step 2. So step 3 is choose your top core values. So after reflecting and discussing, narrow down to a handful of values, maybe 3 to 5, right? That will anchor you in your parenting vision. And you can certainly have more, but keeping the list a bit more focused will make it easier for you to remember and use in like your day to day. So write them down in clear terms. So for example, love, integrity, independence, curiosity, confidence, right? These are just examples. There's no right or wrong. Again, one family's list might look different from another's, and that's okay. Like, what matters is that these words resonate with you and represent qualities that you deeply want to cultivate in your children and in your home. Okay? So here's a quick tip. Sometimes it helps to define what each value means to you, as I mentioned before. So for example, if you wrote down respect, like, what does that mean for you? What does that look like in action? Speak to each other kindly, listen before judging, and honoring differences, right? That might be what respect means to you. If you write down health, you might define it as like prioritizing physical activity and eating healthy meals together. Just like add a short description about what it means to you, and think about like what that looks like in action, and that will help you Just understand, like in our house, in our family, this is what we mean when we say this core value. All right, so step 4, identify your own strengths and challenges. And this is still part of the self-reflection part, but it's important for putting values into practice. So just ask yourself, what are my strengths as a parent? Maybe you're very patient, or maybe you're good at coming up with fun learning activities, right? What are my weaknesses, or what are my triggers? Perhaps you struggle with staying calm when you're stressed, or you find it hard to enforce boundaries. This is good information for you to know. What situations challenge me the most in living out my values? Maybe one of your values is like peace and patience, but maybe the morning rush to school really tests that every day. Or if presence is a value, maybe your smartphone is a big distraction that pulls you away from being present. And so you'll want to do something different there, right? Those are important for you to know, and just be honest, like, about these answers. They can guide you on which areas to work through or get support in, so that you can really bring these values to life. If you realize anger is a weakness that undercuts your value of kindness, then you can seek a parenting class, right, on positive discipline, or read a book about managing anger triggers. This isn't about feeling guilty. It's just about recognizing where you might be right now and where you need support right now. Remember, we all have flaws. There is no perfect parent. Identifying them is actually a strength, because it means you can proactively address them instead of down the line trying to be reactive and doing a bunch of repairing. So, reflection prompt for this step, I want you to actually pause and do a quick values exercise. So take a minute and write down your top 3 to 5 parenting values. You can use single words or short phrases. Really, like, imagine these values guiding your family for years. So, respect. We speak kindly and value each other's personal feelings. Adventure. We try new experiences and embrace a curiosity. If you're not sure, write down whatever feels most important right now, and then you can refine this list later. Okay, so you can pause it here and just take a few minutes to do that. Okay, got your values? All right. So these will form the heart of your parenting vision. Having these clear values and goals as a family can actually bring everyone closer together. And it gets you on the same page. Like, it makes it easier to make decisions and to try new things because you agree on what matters. So keep that list of values handy, because next we're going to use it as we talk about setting some parenting goals. Now, before we move on to goal setting, let me just quickly share when I first did values, and particularly around parenting, because I had done this before in the workplace, or like kind of in general. I discovered that one of my top values is empathy. And I remembered how, my grandma always took time to listen to me. Um, and and I want to give my kids the same feeling of being understood, because so often in life and other places I feel misunderstood, but I never had to question that my grandma understood me always, and that empathy mattered. And so identify, like, why it bothered me so much on days when I was too busy to really sit and hear my kids, or really pay attention to, like, what they were doing, right? Like, they don't have the language to express everything, and so you know feeling like I'm missing things and not really picking up on what they are communicating. It's become something for me to remember, and it's become like sort of a mantra where things feel chaotic. I remind myself that empathy is one of my core values, and so it helps me to refocus. It helps me to put something else off. It helps me to not try to plan a whole bunch of stuff for the day, because I want to connect with them. Instead of saying not now or later, or give me a minute, and then we're on to the next part of the routine, and I did not take that time to really connect. So empathy is something I like really lean on, because I realize as a 40-year-old adult what that really means to me. And I want my children to have that. And so that's the power of knowing your values. Like, they're just this gentle reminder of what you want to be and prioritize as a parent. So let's spend about 5 minutes. We're going to talk about goals and goal setting. And so now that you have a sense of your vision and values, the next step is to turn that into actionable goals. So if your vision is the destination, right? This is the place that we're going. Your goals are the the milestone and these like signs that help you get to this destination. So we're going to talk about how to establish long-term and short-term goals that are aligned to your parenting vision and also align with your values. So you might be like, why goals? It's a great way to say I value kindness and I want a close-knit family. But the specific goals and the actions that make those core values like come to life are really important. And so setting goals helps you track your progress and stay motivated. And remember, like, this is like life's work, right? So it's crucial to have a vision and for that vision to be plain and then to have a plan, right? Like, I don't want to set a vision of kindness and respect and I literally don't know how to get there to put this thing in motion. So let's differentiate between long-term and short-term goals. So long-term goals are connected to the big picture, right? They often relate to the outcomes you hope for over the years. And, it might be like, by the time my child is an adult, I want them to be financially responsible and know how to care for themselves, right? I think we all want that. Or I want my kids to remain emotionally close to me, even when they move out, right? And so those align with your vision in raising an independent and close-knit child. But that's long term if they're a toddler, right? So it's okay, right? That's a long term, sort of visionary and like a bit broad goal. That is still a goal. In the short term, these are the actionable steps that we pursue in the near future. So today, this week, this year, this leads toward those like long term, sort of like broader goals. And these are usually more specific. So, for example, your long term goal is maybe raising a financially responsible child, but the short term goal for this year is I might teach my 10-year-old how to save money by giving them a small monthly allowance to manage. And in that, I'm going to be teaching them about what savings can do. So if your long-term goal is, maintaining a close bond, my short-term goal might be having a one-on-one parent-child outing at least once a month with each kid, right? So that makes it actionable, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now, both types are important. The long-term keeps your eye on the prize, right, and the destination. The short-term goal gives you the practical steps to focus on right now that will lead you to that long-term like vision and goals being realized. So here's a simple process that you can take to make meaningful parenting goals. So number one, brainstorm goals from your values and your vision. So look at the values you wrote in the last section that we talked about. And for each value, ask yourself, like, what is one thing I can do to promote this value in our daily life? And then consider your vision for the future and ask, what would it look like if my vision was realized? And what goals can I work toward to make that happen? And just like brainstorm that freely, right? If one of your values is health, a goal could be to have active family playtime every weekend, right? That's short term. Or raise kids who enjoy exercise. That's the long term, right? So long term, I want them to enjoy exercise. So in the short term, we're always going to make exercise fun by playing and being active outside every weekend. And that's going to shift, right? When you're young, it may look like going to, the place, like one of those big family fun, like ball pit places, right? And you're all playing. But as they get older and into teens, maybe you're playing a sport together, right? Now maybe you're playing soccer or kickball or basketball, or you're going to rock climb, or, you go swimming together in the summer, something like that, right? If you value education and learning, maybe a goal could be to read together with your child for 20 minutes every night. And a long-term goal might be, instilling this lifelong love of reading, and to have your child read on their own for pleasure by a certain age, right? Going to the library together to get the new book, talking about the books they're reading, right? So they could talk about the things they enjoy. And then, you use that information to like keep that love of reading going by teaching them about reading summaries and how they can start to read the summary of a book, or read quickly like an overview of what a book's about, so they can start to think about what they enjoy, and do better at picking out books that they like. And that will help instill this lifelong love of reading. If your vision has to do with having a strong character, that like you want your child to be kind and responsible. Then a short-term goal might be having them do like age-appropriate chores or volunteer as a family once a month with them. And the long-term goal is they develop a habit of responsibility and empathy towards others. So hopefully that helps you. Take a minute to kind of write those things down, and brainstorm. You can just remember that like you can work backwards. So take a moment to brainstorm a few goals like this, for each of your values, like what's long-term goal, what's short-term goal. And they can be fun, right? If one of your values is joy, a goal might be to plan a fun family game night each week, right? Or if it's faith or spirituality is a value, then the goal could be, attend a service or do family meditation together every weekend, or you do family prayer, right? So think through that. Okay. Then we want to make them specific and manageable. So it's easy to say, I want a peaceful household. All right. But we need to pin it down, and put it into action. So goals, goal setting lingo. We hear about making SMART goals. I'm sure you've heard of it. And if you haven't, SMART stands for specific, measurable, actionable or achievable, relevant, and time bound. Okay. So you don't have to follow this formula rigidly, but try to be concrete. So instead of saying like, be more patient with the kids, which is vague, a more specific goal could be, when I feel myself getting angry, I will pause and take deep breaths before responding. Right? Concrete, you can practice it, get it to become a habit. And, mental health experts actually suggest this kind of approach because it helps you to notice your feelings and what's happening in your body, the thing you can control. And so then you take a break, you can respond more calmly. You can also, as your kids grow, they might notice like, oh, you stopped and I see you like deep breathing. Why do you do that? You can then explain to them, I step away for this 5-minute cool down when I'm feeling I'm about to lose my temper so I can come back and be more calm, because this aligns with our family value of patience and peace. Because sometimes we're going to get angry. And so I want to be able to calm myself to be able to move forward with patience and peace. Another example could be like, instead of spend more time with family, specify. We have dinner together at the table at least 4 nights out of the week with no phones or no tablets, right? And now you have a clear target that you can track, okay? So, being specific just makes it easier to follow through. And you can be realistic with yourself when you're setting these plans. Like, don't try to create goal things when like your family's goal and your bandwidth is tight. But don't try to add too much in when you might easily get overwhelmed. It's better to start with one small thing and then maybe add on another, right? Instead of creating this overwhelming list of new rules and filling the calendar. And now you can't stick to your goals and your vision for your family, right? This has to be realistic. Make sure you include both types of goals, so the long term and the short term, and then write them down and share them. There's something really powerful when you put your weekly goals in writing. It signals a commitment. You can even sign your name to it. All of you can sign your name to it on your like family's poster, right? That you can laminate. And these are your goals for 2025, right? And then maybe at the beginning of the year, you do them together, and you set new goals, and you can talk about when you've accomplished the goals and how they became a habit, and talk to your kids about how, early in the year, this thing was tough for them, but by March, they had really understood it. And by December, y'all were a well-oiled machine, right? If you have a co-parent or other family members involved, you can share the goals with them too, just so like everybody's aligned and they're on board. If your parents come over a lot or your siblings come over a lot, right? Sharing with them what your goals are just helps them to see what's happening, and what you're hoping everyone's allowed to. You're talking about what your family has agreed to, so it's part of your family values, and like people can respect, right, what you have going on in your home. You can hear my kids having fun in the background. So, now I want you to do this reflection prompt. So you can pause and write this down, or come back to it later. But think about one long-term goal you have for your child and one for your family. One short-term goal you could set this month to move toward it, and just write that down. For the short-term goal, make sure it's something you can realistically do in the next few weeks, right? For example, my long-term goal is my child will learn to solve problems on their own. So the short-term goal this week, I will teach them a simple problem-solving tool like taking deep breaths or drawing a picture of the problem and let them try to solve it before I step in. Take a few minutes, write that down. Short-term and long-term goals. The long-term goal, right, you have, and what's something you can do this week. All right. So even just articulating these goals is a big step towards being intentional in parenting. Like research has noted that being intentional and setting goals fits well with current research about families. It helps align our day-to-day parenting with our long-term hopes. So you're really doing work right now, like in the 40 minutes of this session, to get that started. All right. So, in my own family, one of our long-term visions is to have a really strong bond and open communication. It really matters to me. And so a short-term goal I've set is to start a mini tradition, right? So, when I pick my kids up from school, even though they can't like fully verbalize these things yet, and even though my son is nonverbal, I ask them, you know, what was your favorite thing you did today? Right? Tell me a high point, and then tell me something that like was a struggle for today. And those are things I'm able to ask about at daycare and at ABA therapy, just to find out. At all my son's therapies, I'm able to ask like, what are his wins and what are the things he's like still working on, and then we know what we can do as a family, right, to support each other. And so those have become a normal part of our day. When my kids would babble and like have excitement, on their faces about, maybe something they were trying to tell me was super exciting, right? And then I knew what the struggles were, right? And I could mention to them, I heard you started trying to color today, but you had trouble holding the crayon. We can work on that at home, right? Um, or I heard you were trying to say a word to communicate that you needed to potty. So we can work on saying potty, and we can work on slowing down and notice when we have to potty. Just those things, right? And then I tell them about me. Like, today was a really tough day. I'm really missing Grandma Phyllis. And so I cried a little bit, and I talked about it in therapy. Something that went really well today is I had a great presentation at work. I was really nervous, but I did it, and I got great feedback, right? So I'm just having the conversation with them. They may not even know what I'm talking about, but for me, I'm just building the habit. So now that you have values and goals in place, the next step is figuring out how to actually like live this out day by day. So we'll spend a few minutes doing this. This is the parenting roadmap. It sounds lofty, but you got the vision, you got the goals, got the values. The parenting roadmap is all about implementing these daily habits, as I just like alluded to, right? It's the routines and the practices that keep you aligned with your parenting vision over time. Okay, so think of it as an ongoing journey of intentional parenting. Okay, so here are some key elements to consider for your parenting roadmap. Daily and weekly routines that reflect your values. So for example, if one is family bonding, like scheduling a routine like a weekly game night or family dinner, right? And actually putting it on your calendar is part of the roadmap. If your goal is to encourage responsibility, then building a strong like morning and evening routine that you follow. Everyone has a job. Everyone has something to do in that routine, and you can divide up, right? So maybe the kids make their bed in the morning or pack their lunch, or maybe at night, like big sister brushes little brother's hair, right, after bath time, or big sister reads to little sister, since big sister's learning how to read, right? She can now take on the responsibility of reading the bedtime story to little sister, right? So those are just some examples. Even if it's something as simple as like the consistent bedtime routine where you start the timer, right? You talk and you cuddle during that time to reinforce the value of like security and love, but you're weeding this into your everyday life, and you've got this calendar that's like keeping everyone going to keep that routine going. So just think about your typical day or a week, and think about what are things you can weave into that align with your values, and then write that down. Now, some mindful parenting practices that you can think about is this isn't just about the kids. So what are you doing for yourself, mom and dad, to stay on track? So consider practices that keep you mindful and intentional, right? So morning intention setting, like take a minute each morning to remind yourself of that parenting vision. You could post a sticky note, right, on your bathroom with a word: patience, listen, slow down, breathe, right? To setting your daily intention to keep you on track with your goals and your vision. You may have a press pause technique, right? Where you build in the habit of pausing when you feel triggered and taking a deep breath, right? And you might even tell the kids, like, if mom or dad is really upset, I might take a time out for a few minutes, but I'll be back to talk, right? Like this models that good emotional regulation for your kids. And you're giving that open communication and that mutual respect so that they know what's going on. You may have an evening reflection. When the kids are in the bed, do a quick mental check in, right? Did I act the way that I wanted to in alignment with my vision today? What went well and what was really hard? Not to judge yourself, it's just to be aware so that you can adjust and also get support when needed. Maybe this is something you could chat with your partner about, like before bed, right? And you can ask for support, but also celebrate the wins. You can journal about this if you want to. Maybe this is something you share with a therapist or a coach or your mom friends in your mom group, so that you can get the support that you need to stay in alignment with your goals. This is just so that you are aware. You're not just aware of what's happening with your kids, but you're also aware of what's happening with you. Because remember, this whole vision is about you and what you want to be true of you as a parent. All right. And then feel free to adapt your environment. So set up the home and the family environment to allow this vision to come to life. Especially if you have a value of like independence, like creating a kid-friendly space where your child can do things themselves. Like maybe there's a low shelf with their dishes so they can go and set up the table or grab their own snacks and throw things away when they're finished. If you value creativity, like maybe there's a designated corner with supplies like readily available for coloring and drawing and creating, and that's just like a habit. My son has a sensory corner, so when he realizes that like he's deregulated, he can go to a sensory corner and everything he needs is there. So things like that. Make sure you're regularly checking in with your family and being flexible. So put on the calendar, like, when are you checking in? Is it monthly? Is it twice a month? What's working well with our routine and what isn't working? Or, I noticed, Saturday night when we were during, like, it's soccer season, right? And wow, like we've really fallen off. Like, what do we want to adjust during this season to make sure we're still in alignment with our vision? Like, do we want to change the day that we have family game night or family movie night, since Saturdays doesn't work anymore because soccer, takes us into the night? Like, just be honest with your family and help kids make the decisions, and be a part of those decisions. So it could be a brief family meeting once a week, once a month. Like, figure out what happens with your family. Make sure you keep the meetings positive. Remind each other of the values and goals that you set, and create time for a quick discussion on what you want to do to move forward. I also want to emphasize self-care for parents. You are the engine that's like keeping this whole parenting vision going, right? If you burn out, the whole thing fails. So make sure there's part of the roadmap that includes you remembering to take care of yourself. Okay. Whether that's like a nightly cup of tea, weekly yoga, prayer and meditation, a monthly evening out with friends, a date night with your partner. What are you doing to fill your own cup and stick to these like intentional habits you're creating? It is not selfish. It is essential, right? I hope you have learned that throughout this summit. Like, taking care of yourself is essential. You cannot be present if you're running on empty. So keep that in mind. Now, put all this together. It should look like a quick snapshot of what a day aligned with your parenting vision might look like. So I have something written here. So in the morning, quickly remind yourself, today I'll be patient and encouraging. That's your intention setting. And maybe you put, patient, encouraging on your Post-it note on your mirror. And so you involve your child in making their breakfast and packing lunch, because independence and responsibility are values for you. This reinforces that value, but also you continue to be encouraging and patient throughout that process as they're learning. And then in the afternoon, after school, you spend 10 minutes chatting about your day, and tossing a ball outside. That's a little one-on-one time. Also, like, feeds into the physical activity and the connection value. When a sibling dispute breaks out, instead of immediately punishing, you remember your value of empathy and you guide them to talking it out. using that pause time for you and also the coaching approach. And again, you're practicing your patience and encouragement that you set for the morning. Then in the evening, you all sit down for dinner and you do the high-low sharing, right? So this is your routine for open communication that's aligned with your values. And then later, you read a bedtime story or you share a bedtime prayer routine. This is your routine for learning and faith, right? And your child, stalls and asks for water, right? Um, and this is the 10th time, and you feel like you start to lose your cool, but you catch yourself, you breathe, and you calmly tuck them in and remember patience. And then at night, you reflect for a minute. We managed to calm bedtime. That's a win. Dinner was a little chaotic. Maybe tomorrow I'll prep the plates in advance, right? Overall, we lived into our values of love and learning today, and it wasn't perfect, but it was a good day. And I remembered to stay patient and encouraging throughout the day. You drink your tea, you exhale, you spend some time with your partner, you go to bed, right? That's a snapshot of what the day looks like and how these values go in action. So every day is not going to go smoothly, but the goal is for you to be intentional and continue practicing this every day. Like over time, you will really start to see these values live out in action and you really will see them transfer to your children. So just remember that. Like, right, this is about overall, it's not about perfection. This is about you reminding yourself, like, I know what I'm aiming for, and tomorrow is a new day and we can try again, right? Or in this moment, even after a brief pause, let's try again. Let's try a different approach. Um, and then when it's time to shift, like, right, as habits start to take form, start a new one, just one. Start a new one, right? Keep the other ones consistent so you build that consistency, but then when it's time, you can gradually add more. You can shift them to something more age appropriate, and make sure you just continue to keep that open discussion and share these in your family meetings whenever you have them. And make sure you celebrate too, like celebrate the wins. So here's a reflection prompt for you. So I want you to pause and think about this. What's one daily habit or routine that you want to start or continue, right? Maybe there's something you're already doing that will support your parenting vision, right? Maybe it's a morning check-in with yourself or a bedtime story with your child or a weekly outing. Write it down and commit to trying it next week or within this next week. Think about that. Okay, so we covered a lot in this session. And I just first of all, I want to take the time to congratulate you and encourage you and let you know, like, wow, you did a lot of work in this session, but everything you can start to put into practice. And so let's just take a moment to summarize. And I want to send you off with like some final encouragement and some clear next steps. So really quick, here are the key points of this session. So we talked about having a parenting vision, and this is your big picture why and where for your parenting. Okay. And so it's the lasting image of the family and the family life that you want to create and the kind of people you want your children to become and the kind of person you want to be as a parent. We did a clear vision that gives you purpose and guides you through the everyday chaos, right, of parenting. And also I reminded you that intentional parenting, so this is like parenting with a plan and a purpose, is powerful. It benefits both you and the kids. And so it leads to better outcomes and more joyful journey. Not perfect journey, right? But it leads to a better experience. Then we identified your values. And so we dug into your core parenting values, those like 3 to 5 principles that matter most to you. These are the heart of your vision, right? So you want to keep these values visible and refer back to them whenever you face a tough decision or feel uncertain. You want to communicate them to your kids, like they will ground you. And, research and experts affirm that defining and sharing family values helps your children feel more connected to you, secure and supported, which helps to make them more secure and connected to you in adulthood. Then we set goals. So we translated values into these actual goals, actionable goals. You learn to set both long-term and practical short-term goals by, being specific and also being resilient and like realistic, right? You've begun creating this roadmap, right, for how to bring these values and this vision into your day-to-day life. And we even even with like the small goals, right? As we talked about, like 10 minutes of special time with your child and your children individually can ladder up to big outcomes over time, like a yearly vacation, like mother-daughter vacation or mother-son vacation, right? And then we created a roadmap. So we talked about building daily habits and routines that are aligned with your vision. Okay. So we talked about, whether it's dinner together or bedtime stories or morning pep talks with yourself or with your family, these little routines are the backbone of making this vision long lasting. And then we highlighted the importance of being flexible and taking care of yourself in this journey. That's a lot. We did a lot of work today. So I want you to remember that no parent is perfect. No vision is lived out perfectly 100% of the time. Y'all are human beings, okay? That is okay. Okay? One parent, with a beautiful vision statement acknowledged to her kids, we know that we will not always live up to this ideal, but we will always try to do what's best for each of you. That's huge. I love that. It's honest, it's full of love, and it gives yourself permission to learn and adjust as you go, right? The fact that you're here lets me know like you're trying to be intentional and reflective, and that already speaks volumes about what a dedicated parent you are. So like give yourself some love. You're doing great. So I want to leave you with this final reflection and action prompt. So take a moment to imagine one change you'll implement after this masterclass. It could be sitting down to write your full parenting vision statement, right? Having a heart to heart with your partner about family goals, or maybe just like simply being more mindful during the next meltdown. What's one action you can commit to taking in the next week to move toward your parenting vision? Just one thing. Write it down in big letters. That's your personal call to action for yourself for the next week. Just to start. Okay? All right. So coming out of this session, creating a parenting vision is a powerful start, and living it is a lifelong journey. So give yourself grace. You do not have to do this alone. I warmly invite you and excitedly invite you to join our parenting community where we support each other with intentional and mindful parenting. It's also your place to vent. It's your place to get support, connected with resources and experts. And so you can, share wins and challenges and ask for support along the way. We have a wonderful group. Okay. It's portal.parentporch.com. Join us. We have a free community, and just consider this your personal invitation to be part of our mindful parenting community. Okay, this is the village, right, for you, and we'd love to welcome you and see you all there. I also want to tell you about our Mindful Parent bundle. So this is a bundle of resources, ebooks and guides and forms and sheets of things, which we specifically curated to help you with everything discussed today and so much more. So much more. So if you did not get that when you signed up for the summit, that is still available today, especially if you found this masterclass valuable. The Mindful Parenting bundle is just going to be like your go-to next step, right? It's your toolkit for implementing your vision day to day. It includes things like workbooks and templates for single parenting, things for dads, things for moms, how you can be more mindful in your journey. There's journal prompts and all kinds of resources. And so there's plans and calendar examples and all kinds of goodies in there. So I encourage you to purchase this bundle. It is in the community. So you can click on it and purchase that. And then we'll also have the link below. This is something I wish I had started, in my intentional parenting journey before I had kids, but it's okay. Like, it's okay to start now. It's designed to be practical and uplifting, and just think of this as like your companion, like your buddy, as you create your long-lasting parenting vision and everything else. Okay. So I encourage you to take action now, join the community, grab that mindful parenting bundle for yourself. Also connecting with us and staying connected with us at Parent Porch on all platforms, and also at Uncaped Mama, so you can stay connected with me. You You don't just become, right, a mind parent, like, by osmosis and by existing. It happens from just taking action and doing it and adjusting and being flexible. And we're here to help you, right, to make this vision for your family a reality, something that is meaningful to you. And it takes out a lot of that comparison to other people, right, because you know what matters to you overall. So just imagine a year from now, right, looking back and seeing how far you've come, right? You're calmer, you're more confident in your parenting. You're seeing your children thriving, right? Because you're consistent. You are less stressed. You have now made more time for you. You feel like a more balanced parent. I want that for you, and that like is truly in reach. It really, really is, right? It's not going to be perfect, but you can get there. I know that because I've gotten there, and I'm still getting there as my kids continue to grow, right? I am so different than I was a year ago, and that's because a lot of these things that I share with you today. Okay, so thank you so much for spending so much time with me. One, with us throughout this week, and also just in this session, for being the kind of parent who cares enough, right, to create a vision that lasts for themselves and for their family. Your kids are blessed and lucky to have you, right? So you should be proud of taking the step to spend time here today and after this, right? To put these things into action. So keep striving towards that vision you're setting, one day at a time, right? One moment at a time, one situation at a time, one pep talk at a time, right? One family meeting at a time. Okay. Remember, like, parenting with intention, it's a journey, and it might be different than what other parents are doing. That's okay. This matters to you, and it matters to us. So cherish the process, and know that every single small step counts. Okay. So I can't wait to continue this conversation with you in our community or in the comments, and to hear about your visions and your victories and all of those wins. So until then, stay mindful. Okay, keep nurturing that family vision that you're creating. That's so beautiful. Every step of the way, I know that you can do this. Okay, so signing off here from all of us at Parent Porch, I am Dom, the Uncaped Mama, sending you love always, and wishing you all the best as you implement this vision. I'm so, so, so excited for you. All right. Thank you for joining me in this class. And again, make sure that you like, subscribe, and continue to stay engaged and connected with us here at Parent Porch on all platforms. See you in our community.